Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Marie. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Happy Earth Day.
Thank you. You know what I heard on the radio today?
What?
I heard that the United States is only 4% of the world's population, and yet we produce over 14% of the pollution.
Well, maybe we need to share some of these books with some of our readers so the next generation can make some better decisions.
I love that idea. Let's do it.
Well, welcome to What to Read This Weekend. We are your hosts, Marie and Rachel. And each week we share a few library books on a theme and how to find them on the New York City Citywide Digital Library on the Sora app. Our shows released Fridays at 3 p.m. on IGTV and YouTube. This week we are
It's
appropriately sharing.
Earth Day, because every day really is Earth Day.
So we have 5 books to share with you this week: The Outdoor Scientist, Castaway, Imaginary Borders, War Girls, and Earth Day and the Environmental Movement. We tried to get a range of titles from nonfiction, fiction, longer titles, shorter titles, poetry, you name it. First title is The Outdoor Scientist, The Wonder of Observing the Natural World by Temple Grandin. And Temple Grandin is a well-known animal scientist, engineer, and spokesperson for people with autism. And in her latest book, which just released earlier this month, it's part STEM nonfiction and part memoir of her childhood, both as a nature lover and observer and as an autistic child. The chapters are separated by content / location: rocks, the beach, the woods, birds, night sky, and animal behavior. And each section, each chapter, has a short narrative summary of the scientific concepts. It's actually pretty in depth, interwoven with her own memories of childhood, photos, some taken by Grandin herself, and step-by-step craft and art projects with diagrams from planting a tree to building a kite. There's a lot of content packed into this book, and nothing is dumbed down by any means for young readers. It all seems pretty accessible and interesting to science and nature lovers. I would say it's specifically geared towards middle grade. And this is a great book all year round, but specifically notable that it was released in April, as April is Autism Awareness Month.
I am here to talk about Castaway by Naomi Nye. Technically, you think, oh, Castaway, this must be a book about living on an island, but it isn't. It's actually a series of poems about trash or things that are cast away. And it's based in the author's habit of picking up trash and her desire to keep the world clean. But she also, because poetry isn't just about pretty rhymes, it's also about activism. So she touches on themes such as nature, social justice, and climate change. And like all poetry, it's done in a really beautiful way. I also really enjoy the humor that comes through in this. She covers things such as food wrappers, mittens, plastic straws, refugee children, trashy talk, the environment, connection and community, all in this great anthology of poems. And I'd say it is geared maybe towards middle school, maybe upper middle school, but I believe that anyone from age 12 to adult can read and enjoy this.
I'm reminded about those 6-pack holders, and I feel like they are the
Oh, yeah.
plastic straws are the 6-pack holders of this generation. Like my
Yes.
generation, I still pick them up on the side of the street and cut them up.
I totally understand. I sometimes bring my recycling home so I can recycle it because there's not a really good recycling in our school. That's how I feel hurt.
The next book is Imaginary Borders, written by Xiuhtezcatl Martinez, a 19-year-old Indigenous climate activist, hip hop artist, and powerful voice of a global youth led environmental movement. This is a tiny book. You can physically put this book into your pocket. And in this tiny book are not only the details of Martinez's own personal story growing up in Colorado and becoming involved in environmental activism, but also the political history of climate change, from a bipartisan issue to a more nuanced topic, now that big industries and wealthy lobbyists are involved. I loved that this book was totally written for a youth audience by a fellow young adult. Like I said, it's a short book. It's less than an hour on audio. It's packed with facts for young people to center and defend their own arguments against climate change. And Martinez ends with a call to action, encouraging his generation to use non-traditional artistic approaches to creating change. And this is the Pocket Change Collective series, the whole series of these small books. Another great one for Earth Day is Taking on the Plastics Crisis by another youth activist and environmental activist, Hannah Testa, which is both of them under an hour. They're available as ebooks and audiobooks, and I think these would be great for middle school and high school audiences.
Okay, I'm here to talk about War Girls by Tochi Onyebuchi. I pretty much loved everything written by this author, and I've extremely loved War Girls. I mean, check out this fierce cover. Is that not fierce? This book is based on the Nigerian War of 1960, as well as other wars in different parts of the continent, but he has moved it to a futuristic view, and it's set in Nigeria. Of course, the world has been decimated by a nuclear war, as well as vast climate change. There's two sisters that tell the story, and they alternate in chapters. One is Oni, who is also known as the Demon of Bifera. She has been caught in the war between the Biferans and the Nigerians over mining rights for an extremely precious metal. She has even become an augment, which is she's replaced her missing limbs and organs. You know I like robots. The other story is told through Iffy, her sister, who's also ingenious and resourceful. She has lighter skin, and she eventually becomes kidnapped when the Nigerians attack. And she discovers that there's been a secret kept from her whole life. The book centers around the sisters' conflict, but as well as the conflict of preserving natural rights. How do you treat the environment? What will the world look like after it's destroyed? And there's a book too, so if you really get into it, you can totally enjoy that too.
I heard this genre described as Cli-fi,
Oh,
like sci-fi, but climate
yes,
fiction.
it's
I thought that
definitely,
was really cool.
it is Cli-fi. As well as like if Wakanda came to Nigeria, it would be a little bit of Wakanda too.
The last book is Earth Day and the Environmental Movement, Standing Up for Earth by Christy Peterson. If you want even more about Earth Day, this is more traditional narrative nonfiction with great artifacts, images, documents, and ephemera, weaving the story of the first Earth Day on April 22nd, 1970. It includes the events leading up to, all the events the day of, and the lasting impact of Earth Day and the movement that followed. Readers will gain a better understanding of how we got to now, the slow legal battles fought on behalf of the environment, the key players that pushed hard despite political, industrial, and social obstructions, and even the not so nice pieces of the movement and what we've learned since. The cover really reminds me of the mid-century modern national parks posters, and this book is only available as an ebook. You can find all of these books and more on the New York City Department of Ed Citywide Digital Library, on the Sora reading app, or on Libby with your public library card. If you need help accessing, ask one of us or your favorite librarian.
Like to see the show notes, you can go to bit.ly/W2RTW2020. Join us next week.